Bothell teacher and his family are biking all the way from Seattle to Washington, D.C. to get the attention of President Trump. Carlos Lazo and his two sons are Cuban Americans, and they're hoping to convince the president to lift economic sanctions against Cuba. So their trip should take about 4 to 5 weeks, and Lazo and his sons plan to visit multiple cities as they ride more than 3,000 miles. They plan to speak with people from all walks of life while they make their way to D.C.
Educate some communities, talk to Americans from all backgrounds, Democrats, Republicans, independents, different creeds, and talk about the need of engagement and love between our two countries.
Lazo already has meetings set up with members of Congress in several states, so if you want to follow along with their journey, you can follow them on Facebook at Carlos Lazo, L-A-Z-O.